So, hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm David Blockstein with Bard College. Bard College is in New York State. I'm actually in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. This is one of our final events for Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Month, even though events will continue at least through Earth Day. And I'll be talking about that just a little bit at the end about some of the things that are coming up. But we know that each of you is um, involved in education and work on climate and justice. So it's a real pleasure to have Elissa Teles Munoz and Tom Roderick with us from Teach for Climate Justice. Um, Even though Elissa is a little bit younger than Tom, she and I have actually known each other for a lot longer than I've known Tom. But we've worked together for about 5 years through her various incarnations, and she introduced me to Tom really, I think, just around the end of 2025, and very impressed with their approach for teaching about climate injustice. Elissa has been working in the climate education space in and around New York City with the task force on climate resilience and education task force. Tom comes to us actually from a lifelong endeavor in the civil rights field. And so I think I really like the way that Tom is approaching climate justice really from a justice perspective, where many of us are coming in from a climate perspective, let's say, and the melding of the two is really reaching where we should be. So I'm going to invite everybody to introduce themselves in the chat if they would like, as Emily has done, and I will turn it over to Elissa and Tom to begin our presentation. Again, thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome everybody. So good to gather with you this afternoon. As co-directors of the Teach for Climate Justice project, Elissa and I are working to support educators who teach for climate justice, to engage many more educators to join them in doing so, and to plant the seeds for a movement to bring robust climate justice education to millions of pre-K to 12 students in classrooms, schools, and communities throughout the country. And I'll just mention that the book, Teach for Climate Justice, is equally relevant for college. It's a great anchor text for a class on climate justice or a class on Teach for Climate Justice. So we're honored that David and Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Month has given us this opportunity to introduce you to our work. When I retired as founding executive director of Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility in 2019, I've been there for 36 years. I spent 4 years researching and writing Teach for Climate Justice, a vision for transforming education. So in our presentation today, we'll introduce you to the book and to 2 key practices that lie at its heart: cultivating active hope and building the beloved community. We'll share practical tools for bringing these practices into your work with and for your students. And we'll describe the Teach for Climate Justice project and other resources you can draw on to support your teaching for climate justice. And I'm going to turn it over now to Elissa to give you a little icebreaker.
Hi, everybody. Really nice to be here with you all this evening or afternoon, depending where you are. Um, Thank you for putting your, your names and your backgrounds and occupations in the chat. I also want to invite you to answer this question, which I've just sent. When do you feel wonder? Keeping it broad. In the meantime, I'll also share a bit about myself and how I came to this work with Tom. Tom and I started working together a few years ago. We'll talk a bit more about the Teach for Climate Justice project that we developed kind of in response to what I deem to be a wonderful vision that he laid out in this book. I have it right here. It's always on my desk. And we really want to bring elements and components of this vision to life. So you'll learn a bit more about it. So I see David says that he feels wonder anytime he's in nature, which is as often as he can. That's great. Tom, do you have a response to when you feel wonder?
Yes, this afternoon I heard the final movement of Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, and it greatly inspired me. I feel wonder that humans can create such beautiful things.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, Tara. She says that she feels wonder when she watches children make new discoveries and wandering around the garden and observing small changes. That is spoken like a science educator. So please feel free to keep putting your responses in the chat. I feel like it's a great way to get to know each other. All right, and I will hand it back to Tom.
Okay, so um, as I said, I spent 4 years researching and writing Teach for Climate Justice. I was so thankful that Zoom arrived just about the time I started working on this. So I was able to just sit in my home office in New York and interview teachers by Zoom all over the country. And the book is grounded in stories from the classrooms of those teachers, outstanding teachers from grades pre-K to 12 around the country. The book is a call to action for educators, grades pre-K to 12 or pre-K to 16, to rise up and demand the freedom and resources to give their students the robust education they need at this time of global warming, environmental degradation, and rampant inequality. These three interwoven crises are darkening the futures of all children and young people now in school and for the foreseeable future. These children and young people will, in turn, be called to join us to save what can be saved. Through no fault of their own, their generation will bear a large part of the responsibility for turning things around before it's too late. Yet, schools in general, the United States certainly, are paying little attention to this reality. When they do, they too often teach students about climate change when they need to be teaching also for a transition from fossil fuels to sustainable sources of energy, for a habitable planet, and for climate justice. They define climate justice as a world in which human activity has come back into harmony with nature, and human well-being is a reality not just for some, but for all. It is a beautiful vision for the future, a vision worth living for and fighting for. Teach for Climate Justice, the book, is not a curriculum. It presents a vision to guide teaching, learning, and curriculum development. Grounded in great teaching and interdisciplinary learning from classrooms around the country, The book describes teaching strategies and examples of best practice and provides a bibliography and links to resources for the classroom and school. The book invites educators to undertake a risky and exciting journey to make this vision their own and unleash their creative energies, offering their gifts of active hope while creating the conditions for students to offer theirs. Greater Good magazine called Teach for Climate Justice one of its 5 favorite books for educators in 2023. That's the year the book came out. And the American Library Association named Teach for Climate Justice as a Choice Outstanding Academic Title for 2024. It's a good read, grounded in stories from the classroom and schools, 20 outstanding pre-K to 12 educators and 4 student activists from around the country. Though it pulls no punches about the predicament we're in and how we got here, readers find the book inspiring and hopeful. The vision has 8 dimensions, each described in a chapter of the book. And you see them there. Build a beloved community, cultivate love and understanding of nature, educate for deep understanding of the climate crisis, the predicament we're in, how we got here, practice active hope, and encourage our students to do so. Teach for civil resistance, which is the story of how ordinary people have organized grassroots movements to promote justice and can do so, once again, talking about the civil rights movement and many other movements that have led against oppression. Then support students to act for climate justice. Active hope means engaging the students in taking action and providing those opportunities. And works best when the whole school is engaged. And the whole spirit of the vision in the book is to go forth with heart, joy, and a fighting spirit. Now, don't worry. We don't expect one teacher to do all these things. Teach for Climate Justice is the first book to lay out a comprehensive vision framework of what our students need to learn and do during their time in school from grades pre-K to 12 in ways appropriate to their ages. As I said, it's actually most relevant, also relevant for college as well. It's not only relevant for science classes. Scientific knowledge is critical, of course, for it is science that helps us understand the changes that are happening to our environment and scientists who are warning what will happen if we don't change our ways. But, as social studies teacher Bayard Faithfull says in the book, climate crisis must make its way into the social studies curriculum because it's not just about science. It's about history, economics, politics, and social justice. In fact, all the disciplines have important roles to play in teaching for climate justice, including language arts, art, civics, music, health, sports, and social emotional learning. Multidisciplinary, project-based learning is especially effective in teaching for climate justice, and the book includes many examples of that. So today we're going to focus on 2 dimensions of the vision that are for all ages, pre-K to 12, and all subject areas. They are the ones highlighted there: build a beloved community and practice active hope. So we'll start with active hope. What is active hope? One kind of hope is optimism. Another kind of hope is what we hope for. Active hope is the latter kind of hope. Active hope is not something we have. It's not a feeling. It's something we do. There are three parts to active hope. We envision what we want or hope for the world. We discern how we can best contribute to bringing that about. And we roll up our sleeves and get to work. In other words, we act. For example, what I hope for is a world of climate justice, as I defined it above. A world in which human activity has come back into harmony with nature, and a world in which human well-being is a reality for all, not just for some. So that's what I envisioned for the world. As a career educator, I decided I could best contribute to bringing that about by developing my vision for how to educate for climate justice, drawing on my long career as an educator, then writing a book to argue for that vision and getting examples from teachers around the country, and then starting with Elissa, the Teach for Climate Justice Project, to build communities of hope to promote the book and the vision. My hope is that you'll get the book and wrestle with its stories and ideas, that you'll find it useful for sharpening your own vision of what you want for the world, that you'll discern how you can best contribute to bringing that vision about, and that you'll redouble your efforts to teach for climate justice. So how do we discern the ways we can best contribute to bringing our vision to life? Right? The vision is big, it's comprehensive. There are all those components to it. How do you find where you fit and can best contribute to that vision? Well, we find the place where, in the words of author, preacher, and theologian Frederick Buechner, your great hunger meets the world's great need. What you most love doing, what you most want to do that relates to the world's great need, which at this time is for climate justice. I don't want to minimize the challenges we face in doing this. It can be draining and demanding. Even at its best, it takes work. But it's especially demoralizing if we're part of schools or part of an educational system that puts a lot of restrictions and other burdens on what teachers can do. But as one of my mentors advised, look for the cracks and plant the seeds there. We don't give up, even where it's challenging. And in many places, actually, the schools are supportive of robust teaching for climate justice. But where we're in difficult situations, we look for the cracks and plant the seeds there. Our challenge as educators in this perilous time is to give our students the experience of practicing active hope, whether it's to create the classroom you and they envision, or to help others in need, or to be stewards for the environment, or to do planting and stewardship in a local park, or leading a celebration for Earth Day in their community, or organizing for climate justice. So, how do we cultivate active hope? All the dimensions of the vision that I've described before are ways of cultivating active hope. Cultivating love and understanding of nature, learning the history of movements for social justice, helping build a caring classroom community, contributing to a community food drive. All these are ways to cultivate active hope. But the foundation, the starting place, is to build the beloved community in our classrooms. So what is the beloved community? The term has a long history. Martin Luther King gave the term new meaning as a concise statement of his vision for the civil rights movement. The beloved community is a world, a country, a society in which there is no poverty, hunger, and homelessness, in which racism, discrimination, and oppression of all kinds are replaced by justice infused with a spirit of human support and solidarity, and in which nonviolence leads the struggle for justice, seeking not the defeat of one's enemies, but reconciliation and redemption. King didn't mention nature and the environment, but my vision of beloved community embraces nature and all life on our beautiful planet. There's a poem by Gwendolyn Brooks that expresses it well. Poem is called Paul Robeson, and it goes like this. That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day. The major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge, and other symptoms of an old despond. Warning in music words devout and large, that we are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond. So the beloved community in our classrooms is a place where we and our students create and experience what Parker Palmer calls trustworthy relationships and tenacious communities of support. We live the idea that we are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond. And how do we do that? Well, the teacher engages the students in envisioning what they want their classroom to be like, how they would like to treat others and be treated. Together, teacher and students make community agreements for ways to act to make their classroom the place they envision. It's a work in progress that they create, acknowledging progress and solving problems together along the way. And practicing active hope with our students is not only for them, it's for us as teachers. As teachers, we are privileged to have the opportunity to make our classrooms into microcosms of what we want for the world. As teacher Sophie Schwadron put it, well, yes, as Sophie Schwadron, as teacher Sophie Schwadron said in the book, working with kids is absolutely draining. She acknowledges she's a kindergarten teacher. But spending all day with kids is basically the most fun there could be. Being with a group of kids in the classroom from August to June, we get to imagine the world we want to live in and then practice it. How we treat each other, how we treat nature, how we talk about our identities, how we address conflict, and how often we sing and dance and have fun. To me, that's the dream way to spend a day. It's really hard sometimes to have the energy for it, but it gives me hope every day. Now that's, Sophie, a kindergarten teacher that was supportive of her work for climate justice and supportive of her doing exciting things with her children. It's. I know that it's, as I mentioned before, it's not easy in many situations. The atmosphere in a school can be challenging, but again, it's like we look for the cracks and plant the seeds there. Our aim is to do as much as we can to practice the world we want on a daily basis with our students. And in my the specialty, the specialty of the Morningside Center for Teaching Social Responsibility, which I directed for 36 years, was social emotional learning, and it was exactly the skills that we need in order to build a caring classroom community. And so you see on the slide the components of that. First, and there on that slide there are links to the our website, where we have fully explained activities in each of these areas that you can immediately bring into the classroom. So there's, first of all, building a caring classroom community. Those are activities that help students get to know each other and like each other. Teach students skills in active listening and understanding and managing feelings. Yes, we need to teach our students social emotional skills so that they listen to each other. That we need to provide brave spaces for students to share their feelings and concerns. And that means the classroom is a place where students have the space and the support to share what they're really thinking and feeling. Finally, because people are not going to agree on everything, it's important to for the teacher to facilitate productive conversations about controversial issues. Finally, we need to, as teachers, practice self-care. So click on those links and you will come to our website under teaching activities, and in each of those areas there are several classroom tested activities for building the beloved community. And finally, I'll just take a few minutes to describe a couple of those activities to you so you'll know a bit of what I'm talking about. So the first one is stand up and applaud. Now this is just a exercise you can do in any classroom, any age, and what you do is you make a statement, and then the students are to, and you included, are to stand up if that statement applies to you. For instance, it could be stand up if you saw a movie you liked this weekend, or stand up if you helped somebody recently, or stand up if you had a good time with a friend recently. And there are other suggested statements you can make. You can think of your own. And every time the people stand up, the whole class applauds. So it's just a very simple way to create a positive climate in the classroom. Use put-ups and avoid put-downs. You know, we have government, leaders using put-downs right and left in almost everything they say. Very terrible example for our young people. And so the teacher can just say, what are put-ups? We'll start with what are put-downs? And students will, I'm sure, be able to share a few. Don't write them down, though, because we don't want to reinforce them. But after people understand what you're talking about in terms of a put-down, then switch to put-ups. Well, okay, if that's a put-down, what would a put-up look like or sound like or be? And then students have a chance to share some put-ups. And then the teacher just says, in this class, we're going to use put-ups and avoid put-downs. And by the way, when they share the put-ups, you write them down, and that goes onto a chart that stays up on the wall of your class. As you catch people using put-ups, including yourself, add those to the list. Next, community agreements. So this is active hope in action. This is envisioning what do we want our classroom to be? How are we going to treat each other, and so on? And how do we want to be treated? How are we going to treat others? And at the top of the list is use put-ups, avoid put-downs. But elicit other community agreements as well, and make a chart and hang that up on your classroom wall. And follow those agreements before class or whatever. Remind people of the agreements and ask if there's anything people want to add to that. Okay. And then finally, having laid the foundation by community building activities, avoiding put-ups, avoiding put-downs and using put-ups, creating community agreements. It's wonderful, especially when some upsetting event occurs in the community, having to do with climate or justice or whatever, and you know it's on students' minds. Feel free to, as a teacher, put out the question, how is your heart today? One of the teachers, in fact, I opened the book with Jasmine Locke in Oregon, starting her classes that way, especially when there's been an upsetting event in the world. But she's established the atmosphere and the ground rules so that it's a brave space for students to share what they're really thinking and for her to listen. You can start with pairs, you can, and then open it up to class discussion, etc. Our students, through the internet, through social media, are learning a lot more than we may know about what's going on in the world, and it's bringing up feelings for them. And as a teacher, uh, we need to be there for them. Need to be we need to create a space where they can um, share those feelings in a supportive space and realize that they're not alone and that we as teachers care about them as people, not only as students, and that we connect with them that way. So, how is your heart today? So now I'm going to turn it over to, uh, well, I'll just say one more thing about that. How is your heart today? As a teacher, as an educator, we need to be aware of our hearts and things that are weighing us down, and practice self-care for ourselves, so that we can be there for our students. And there are good activities for supporting ourselves as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to Elissa, who's going to share some free practical tools and resources, and she's going to talk a bit about our Teach for Climate Justice project.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. This is a quote from Howard Zinn, which I think really underscores the last part of what Tom was talking about, where we kind of have to reckon with and acknowledge the reality of difficult moments in our world, because I think students, like Tom said, are more and more aware of it. Not only do we live in a hyper globalized world, but they have access to social media like never before. And I think it's just worth noting and worth reminding folks that kids are seeing things that are not age appropriate when it comes to news without even searching for it. It's just popping up on their feeds if they have unrestricted access to social media, which many of them do. And so, this quote here that education becomes most rich and alive when it confronts the reality of moral conflict in the world is more relevant than ever, because the reality of moral conflict in the world is ever present in the minds of students, their parents and caregivers, and educators. So, kids are craving that acknowledgement in the classroom, and it would be a missed opportunity not to do so. So, just I want to talk a bit about Teach for Climate Justice to root everything Tom was sharing about the framework of active hope and the beloved community, the SEL activities that he shared, the stand up and applaud, the put ups instead of put downs, community agreements. That all comes from Tom's background as a real pioneer in social emotional learning. And so the Teach for Climate Justice project, we created, as I said before, to bring the book's vision to life, but also to create communities of practice for teachers and do that self-care bit that Tom was talking about. And so we created this project. It's super grassroots. Um, as you might have seen already, Tom and I are a very intergenerational pairing, and I think that that's really at the core. It's at the core of our work. Um, we want to foster intergenerational conversations about climate justice, climate change, about what education should and could be like, what students want, what teachers want, what elders want. And so the Teach for Climate Justice project attempts to grapple with many of those questions. And our vision is to really start a grassroots movement. And, at the beginning of our webinar, when folks were still coming in, we were kind of discussing many of the challenges in education today, which are very, very real. The landscape has changed a lot in the last 5 years, 10 years even. And climate justice is a lens that we can use to kind of root everybody back into what really matters. And so, what the Teach for Climate Justice project does is we have free support for teachers, including study groups, to reflect on the implications for our teaching and how we can create communities of practice of educators kind of in many different stages, those who are long-time climate justice educators, those who are coming into the field, those who want to learn more. We welcome everyone. And so we're having one in the spring, in mid-May. I'll share the flyer on the next slide. But that's really the core of our work right now are these study groups. We do them seasonally. We've had three so far, and we learn something new every time. We also do free professional development and presentations and workshops for folks like the one today, and really leaning on our organizational partners to help connect us with educators who might be interested in frameworks like the Beloved Community and Active Hope that kind of depart from the test-centered capitalist education system that doesn't really serve teachers, educators, administrators, or families. And finally, we always offer and provide guidance and one-on-one support to teachers. This is really something that we offer in case anybody needs help or guidance or wants a second look on things. We also host an annual retreat in Costa Rica, and this year's will be in July. So here are the two upcoming opportunities that we have to share with you. The first is our study group. Study group is free to join. We will mail you a book if you're in the United States. If not, there's opportunities to have the e-reader. So yeah, you can, if you're interested in joining, I'll send the link after when we transition to Q&A. But these study groups kind of take the form of a book club, and we really reflect and build partnerships with the teachers who are in the group. The Teach for Climate Justice retreat in Costa Rica from July 19th to 26th this year is in partnership with the Latin American Service Expeditions, as well as elders who live in the indigenous community of Yorquín in the Bribri Forest. Um, and Tom went last year, and this is a photo from the group. So if you're interested and want to learn more, please feel free to scan this QR code here, and I'll send it in the chat as well. Other free resources and practical tools. So Tom really laid the groundwork for social emotional learning, climate justice frameworks. And here's one that's international. It was co-funded by the European Union. It's called the Clarity Toolbox, suitable for all grade levels and subject areas. I highly recommend checking it out. It's really robust and it's interdisciplinary. They have really cool tools that include exercises in nature-based art, cultural heritage, storytelling, cartography, really rooted in the trauma-informed learning perspective. Some other free tools. We're based in New York, so I'll share this tool, but they also have different state hubs. It's the Subject to Climate Education and Activities Hub. They have hubs for various states in the United States and also a general hub. Other state hubs include Connecticut, Maine, Wisconsin, I'm really blanking, Washington, Oregon, and there might be a couple more. But really great tool. You can just go to their website. It's linked here when we'll share the slides with you. Actually, I guess I can show you right now. You can go to their website. Here's the New York one, for example. If you go to lesson plans, you can search climate justice, for example, and you can filter it by subject area. For example, if I'm a math teacher and I am teaching in elementary school, here's this carbon footprint math lesson. And it's always vetted by an external teacher and a scientist. So recommend that resource as well. And then also here's the climate emotions toolkit from Climate Mental Health Network and the National Environmental Education Foundation. Um, this is a toolkit that has tools for educators and for students. This toolkit here, it lives as two different documents. This toolkit here has a background on climate emotions, including the neurobiology of those kinds of emotions, um, why students feel them, what your brain looks like when it's stressed about existential topics like climate change. And then this document here has classroom activities. This one is made for middle school. The other ones are much broader in scope. So thank you so much. I'm going to send a link in the chat to this form here. If you'd like to continue engaging with the Teach for Climate Justice project and want to receive our very brief and occasional newsletter, please fill out this form. They kind of take the form of blogs and letters written by me and Tom, as well as other opportunities and things that we want to share with you. So you can also reach us at teachforclimatejustice.org at Gmail. I'll send that in the chat as well. And now we kind of want to open up the room for questions. So, Tom and David, do you mind fielding those as I collect all this information and put it in the chat for everyone?
Great.
Of
Thank you.
course. So, who wants to start with the question or observation, response to what you've heard today?
I Not having been to one of these before, I find it, I think, pretty helpful. I'm hoping I would try some of these techniques maybe in class next in the fall. I'm teaching again, so um, I'm teaching the environmental justice class, which has a big climate change component to it.
Yay. Thank you.
I have to say, I actually know one of David's old neighbors. He taught a climate justice and environmental ethics course, and it really changed the course of my career, and it's why I'm in this field today. So, I found that it was helpful that he grounded what he was sharing with us in the emotional and ethical piece, and I think that that makes it accessible to students who maybe think that climate is a science issue and maybe don't associate themselves as, science oriented. So highly recommend bringing that dimension in if it's possible.
Yeah, I think that one of the problems I think is that there's way too much like doom and gloom kind of news. Like end of the world dystopian stuff, which I don't think is at all helpful.
Right.
I just think the science, I mean, the climate people have done a bad job. They
Mm.
keep screaming like every flood, every fire, every this is a climate, you know, crisis, catastrophe. And at this point, it's like just noise. People, I don't even think are listening. So
Mhm.
if you can tell people the science and just say, here's positive things you can do, I think that's a lot better off than just telling them like, New York is going to be inundated by 2100 or something like that.
Right.
Because that one of the problems is thinking about time. I mean, the kids I teach, they're concerned about like today's homework assignment or like
Mhm.
who they're hanging out at lunch with, or so to speak. What are they doing on the weekend? Are they thinking 5, 10, 15, 25 years ahead? No, they're not. They're not. Um,
I have a comment to share on that. Unless Tom, do you have a comment?
Well, you go ahead and then I'll add.
I want to share on the negativity piece because I mean it's just frankly true. Like the timeline is really it's coming up. But just as sort of like an opportunity to reframe and make it accessible for people so that they don't shut down immediately. One of the topics that this Climate Mental Health Network resource talks about is the brain's negativity bias and how we're so much more likely and biologically um, capable of remembering bad news or bad information over good information. And you can pretty much bet that all the information that kids know about climate change is bad.
Right.
Um, they're probably not thinking about the helpers. They're not thinking about the cracks of the where you can plant the seeds that Tom was talking about before. So that's really where a teacher can step in and kind of provide something new that could pique interest as well.
Yeah, I could just add, Elissa, you mentioned the helpers. There's this famous story about that, what's his name, shared his mother told him, remind me his name.
Which
We're talk,
story?
well, we're talking about,
Was Mr. Rogers?
yeah, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, yeah, Mr. Rogers says that when something upsetting happens in the world, his mother always told him, look for the helpers. And there are plenty of helpers. I mean, there are people all around the world working to fight for climate justice, working to save the planet and the environment, and so on. And so our students need to know about them. Um, and that applies to other challenging things in the world as well.
Well, the Goldman Prize winners are good to, to reference if you're teaching.
Say more about that, about them.
Are you familiar with the Goldman Prize? So the Goldman Environmental Prize, it's awarded every year. It's,
Uh-huh.
I think, $100,000 to the winner. It might even be more now. These people are selected from around the world. And if you go to their website, it's they have biographies of each of the people who win, and they're very inspiring stories.
Uh-huh.
And they're great examples of people who, um, from all ages. There's Naleli Kobo in LA who started um, working to improve the air quality in her neighborhood, which is a Hispanic Latino neighborhood that's adjacent to oil wells. And she's been enormously successful, and LA is sort of banned any more oil wells and are trying to shut them down. But there's all kinds of stories like that.
Uh-huh.
And they're great examples of what people do all over the world for climate justice, environmental justice, indigenous um, rights, all kinds of different examples.
Yeah, and that would be a great activity for students to each one choose one of those
I've done
people
that. Yeah.
to research, yeah, and then report on it.
Yeah.
And I just had another suggestion. I remember Alan Shapiro, who was one of the founders of my organization years ago in the early 80s. Um, and so he used to uh, have the kids show him their drafts. I mean, now is not the first time the kids have copied things from other people, right? AI makes it all too easy, but just to, I don't know if that would help at all, but we need some strategies to sort of get around there. Uh, Maybe in class they could start doing their draft and figure out. But
Right.
to, you'll know that much better than I. Right?
Kara just left. I was going to call on her, but I'm going to just mention that earlier today, We had a wonderful webinar with the Teles group, the Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation, and their films, Young Voices for the Planet. And so, in addition to the follow-up, sending you um, the recording and the notes and the chat from today's webinar, I'll also include as a special bonus the recording from that Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation webinar. I wanted to, I know we're almost at the top of the hour, and I guess I will say that, if you have to go, that's fine. We will have more webinars next week. And so please do check our website, and we'll send them to you as well. But we have one on um, students as climate ambassadors. It's going to take place Thursday at 2 o'clock. There's one by climate activist Mike Tidwell on his book on lost trees of Willow Avenue in my neighborhood in Tacoma Park. And that sort of combines loss and action. That's going to be next Friday at noon. And then we'll have next Wednesday, no, next Tuesday at 9 a.m., a new children's book. So various things. But if you don't mind, I'd love to hear from Fred or Hope or Lennox in terms of um, bringing hope in Africa, and the work of Broad Borders Hope Foundation in Western Kenya, and just sort of how what you heard today from Elissa and Tom, how that resonates with you, and how that matches the kinds of things that you're doing with K-12 schools in Kakamega County.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. David. I hope everyone can hear from me. My
Yes.
name's Frederick Mwenje. Thank you. My name's Frederick Mwenje. I work with the Broad Borders Hope Foundation and together with the Lennox Kaleka and I hope Ari, who are with us in this meeting today. So we have been doing tree planting and climate education in our schools in Western Kenya since 1st of March up to today. Today was our last day that we were doing this event. And so far, so good. We managed to walk around and visit 15 schools in Western Kenya. And this has brought us to planting assorted trees, 15,000 of assorted trees, and 1,000 fruit trees in the 15 schools. We have also been able to form 15 eco clubs in every school because we want to have at least our connection point. So we tried to work with eco clubs in every school that will be working together closely on environmental conservation and climate change as we move forward. Again, we managed to reach 15,800 students, or rather learners, in these schools. For this reason, we have been invited to go to Nairobi. We've been working together closely with Mr. David, and we will be boarding our bus tomorrow, an 8-hour drive to the capital city of Kenya, going to meet the environment Ministry of Environment, because they want to know how we're working in these 15 schools. They also want to hear our story and know our experiences, and also tell them the impact that we've been causing these 15,000 in these 15 schools. Again, we want to appreciate and Mr. David so much for standing in with us and supporting this cause and making us being the focal point for worldwide climate and justice in Kenya. We really appreciate you so much, and we hope that each and every one of us who is meeting will be part of us, and we will be working together through Mr. David. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you,
Glad to
Tom
hear
Roderick. Elissa.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that you'll be heading to Nairobi soon. Have a safe trip.
Thank you. I hope we are happy because tomorrow we are having an 8-hour bus drive.
Nice. Well, does anybody have any other questions before we wrap up?
I want to thank you both, Alyssa and Tom, for this presentation and for helping us to learn about active hope and building a beloved community and how that can help us to have our positive actions and emotions related to climate change and climate solutions and climate justice. And thank all of you who have participated with us today and for all of your great work. So I'm going to stop the recording now. And if people want to stay on for informal conversation, that would be fine too. So thank you all.
Thanks, David.